I've been growing peas in my garden for many years, and over that time I've worked out exactly what works. In this video I'll share my step-by-step guide to growing sweet delicious peas right the way through from sowing to harvest, whether you've got a garden or just a container on a patio. We'll cover the best varieties and tips for speedy growth, and if you've had trouble growing peas in the past, please don't worry, they're really simple with these techniques. Nothing beats the joy of snaffling a few pea pods from the vine and gobbling them up there and then. It's the gardener's privilege, we deserve it. But it's always good if we can grow enough to make it to the kitchen. Now these here are my early peas, sown at the start of spring to give a crop in early summer. I've got a few just about producing pods over there, for example. Now these are a bit shorter than a lot of varieties, which makes them ideal for tighter spaces or, for example, a container garden. Taller climbing varieties of pea, on the other hand, are more vigorous than earlier types. These are known as main crops. They crop for longer and can reach heights of up to around 6 feet or more, or around 2 meters. So really good sturdy supports are a must for those to help them reach their full potential. And we'll be looking at climbing varieties and the best supports for them later in the video. Before we get sowing, let's look at the different types of pea and work out which type you might want to grow. First up, we've got our standard peas for shelling. Now we need to bust open the pods to reveal the little treasures within. But shelling peas is one of those iconic summer moments, a real treat. And your reward for it is the sweetest, most delicious peas you will ever taste. And that is a promise. And then there are those varieties with edible pods. Now first up are snap peas or sugar snaps, and they have that same sweet flavour as shelling peas. The great thing is you've got a lovely crisp shell, and then you've got the little peas inside as well, and the combination is an irresistible juiciness and of course sweetness. The other type of pea with edible pods is the Monge 2 or snow pea. Now these don't contain much at all in the way of peas. You can just see they're really tiny inside, and you need to pick them promptly before the pods themselves go a bit stringy. But they are perfect for stir frying or slicing up nice and thinly into salads. You can actually eat the pods of shelling varieties of peas as well. I've never tried this, but there's actually a pea pod soup recipe I've seen, so I'm going to be trying that this summer. Springtime is sowing time, and with summer rapidly approaching, the final window for sowing peas is pretty much here. Now peas are best sown from late winter to late spring. You can sow them in early summer, but the later sowings tend to be a bit more prone to disease and may struggle in the extreme heat of summer. Spring's very much advanced, so I'm going to make a couple of rows sowing just here in the ground where they're going to grow. And it's a lovely sunny spot, but if you're in a hotter climate, you might want to pick somewhere that gets rather dappled shade, because peas are a cool season crop and won't like it too hot. Peas fix much of the nitrogen they need to grow from the air by teaming up with bacteria. Now the bacteria fix this nitrogen in little nodules that the plant can tap into whenever it needs to. That's clever stuff. But peas don't live on nitrogen alone. They need other nutrients to make them swell those lovely pods. So add plenty of organic matter to the soil in advance of sowing. Here I've added some beautiful garden-made compost, which is now lovely and dark and waiting for those pea seeds. And now for the seeds, and today I'm sowing a snap variety called Nairobi. Now it grows to about knee high, which will make supporting it a lot easier. It gives good yields and crucially has good tolerance to powdery mildew, a fungus that spreads over the foliage. It can really slow plants down and is more of an issue in the second half of summer. So if you are making a late spring sowing like this to grow on into summer, it might be worth seeking out a variety described as resistant to or tolerating powdery mildew. I've got a few options for sowing my peas. Make a trench and then sow across the bottom to give a band of seedlings, or make individual holes and sow into those. Now seeing as this is a relatively small area, I'm going to do the latter. The first thing I'm going to do is just mark out the position of a double row here. So just kind of loosely like that, and then we'll make holes to sow into, just so I know where it is. This board is roughly 4 inches or 10 centimetres across, so I can flip it like that, and then I've got 8 inches or 20 centimetres between my 2 rows. And then in the middle, between our 2 rows, that's where the supports will go to give our peas plenty of lift and support. Now it's just a question of making a hole with my fingers every 4 inches or 10 centimetres, and then just dropping in 2 or 3 peas into each hole like that. Make a hole, drop in your peas, move on to the next. Now the seeds that come up using this method won't actually need thinning out at all, because I've left plenty of space between each little cluster of seedlings. If you decide to sow across the bottom of a trench, then make the trench about 9 inches or 22 centimetres wide, then sow in a zigzag formation, leaving about 2 inches or 5 centimetres between each seed. That should give a similar kind of density to what we've got here. If you're sowing a bigger area, then you may find the trench sowing method just a bit quicker. And of course, don't forget to cover your seeds back over. Peas love the relative cool of spring and early summer, so this is one crop you won't need to mollycoddle to get going, which makes it a really solid choice for beginner gardeners. Certainly by mid-spring, it should be fine to sow directly, so long as the soil isn't really wet and cold still. But the earliest sowings made in either late winter or early spring will get off to a much stronger start if they're started off under cover. Not only will the extra warmth coax the seedlings along so they're less likely to just kind of sit there, languish and rot, it will also protect both the seeds and seedlings from pigeons and slugs, which can be really hungry at that time of year. So I've got my plug tray here filled with just an ordinary all-purpose potting mix, and then I'm sowing between 2 and 3 seeds into each plug, and then these will get covered over, labelled, and then brought in there to germinate. Rodents like mice absolutely love peas, and who can blame them? They seem to sniff out the seeds though with a laser-like kind of perception. I don't know how they do it, so even under cover we're going to need to set up a secondary layer of defence. I outfox the mice by just putting them into a tray like that, and then putting a kind of propagation unit over the top like that, and making sure it's nice and airtight. And they can stay in here until the seedlings are maybe 3 or 4 inches or 10 centimetres tall, and they'll be much less of a temptation then. Peas produce a relatively deep root system, so if you do anticipate any delay in planting, perhaps at the start of the season because of persistently wet or claggy soil, then perhaps sow into plug trays that are a bit deeper, or into something like toilet roll tubes, which will give the roots the space they need to fully go down and explore, and keep them ticking over till you are ready to plant. Keep your seedlings watered and in plenty of light, then transplant them into their final positions as soon as the soil is workable, and space them at the same spacing as if you'd sown them, so at least 4 inches or 10 centimetres apart within the row. Most peas, even shorter types, need some sort of support. For shorter, earlier varieties that grow to about 3 foot or 90 centimetres tall, the classic pea stick is your go-to. Just push them in the ground, and then the twiggy branchwork will offer the tendrils something to hook onto to help the plants grow upwards. Another option is something like wire mesh, secured to 2 uprights thrust into the ground at either end of the row. Taller climbing varieties can be trained up any sort of trellis, or secured in between strong strings stretched horizontally at intervals between really strong uprights, or even grown up a teepee of bamboo canes, perhaps with extra string woven between the canes to create a kind of spider's web effect for those tendrils to grab onto. Whatever supports you're using, try to get them in place quite soon after sowing or planting, certainly before the plants get too big and start flopping over. Use a hoe to scratch out any weeds that come up between the rows, then pull up any weeds sneaking their way within the row themselves. Peas aren't fussy, but as I mentioned earlier, pigeons can be a real issue earlier on in the season. So cover young seedlings or transplants with some sort of row cover or kind of netting like this to keep beaks at bay until they're a bit bigger. By the time they need supports and are up off the ground, the birds should be a lot less interested in them. Peas are lush and fleshy, and the tallest varieties have absolutely loads of foliage to support, so we need to keep these really well watered. We don't want our peas to dry out, otherwise we'll get yellowing and dying leaves and the plants will become more prone to pests and diseases. Good airflow can also avoid problems like powdery mildew. Now if you're growing more than one double row, space the next double row at least 2 feet or 60 centimetres apart from the previous one, and a bit further apart for taller climbing varieties. Not only will this help with airflow, but it will also make picking a lot easier. The pea picking window for peas is a lot narrower than for, say, beans, so we need to stay on the ball to make sure we get every last pod and perhaps make a couple of sowings to extend the season. For shelling peas, there's the option to pick on the slightly smaller side for smaller but sweeter peas like petit pois, or let them grow to get fuller and fatter to give you bigger peas, though they will be a little less sweet. You can also let peas dry on the vine for storing, but if you want to go big on that, then pick a variety that's really been bred for drying, often sold as a soup pea. Pick varieties with edible pods, that's your snap peas and mange 2 or snow peas, as soon as they reach a kind of size that you expect to start enjoying them, but don't leave it too long. Mange 2 or snow peas especially can get a bit stringy and tough if they're left too long, so inspect and pick plants every couple of days and make sure you don't miss any. If you find it tricky spotting green pods against green foliage, then consider one of the varieties with purple or yellow pods. These types often come with really rather stunning flowers too, making these peas quite the head turners. The most compelling reason to grow your own peas is the unrivaled sweetness that comes from just picked pods. So please enjoy your peas as soon as possible after picking, before all those lovely sugars in the peas start to go starchy. Freezing is a great way to capture the essence of summer picked peas. Just pick and shell your pods as quickly as possible, then spread your peas out onto a tray to freeze hard. Then once they have, decant them into labelled freezer bags or lidded containers and get them straight back into the freezer. My favourite way to enjoy peas is lightly dressed as part of an early summer garden salad, or as the singing centrepiece to a pea and mint soup, or paired with paneer cheese in a delicious curry. Just yum. Now let me know your favourite way to enjoy peas in the comments. You'll find lots of options to support peas and other climbing crops in our garden planner, helping you to create a really professional looking finish to your garden plans. If you've not tried it yet, why not start your free 7-day trial now? Just follow the QR code or the link over here to get started. I'll catch you next time.